Oh, and that's a brilliant effort. And they've turned it right around. In the space of a few minutes, Saudi Arabia grabbed control of the game.
Welcome back to the latest episode of Dawri, the Saudi football podcast. After a week which saw monumental All-Arab AFC Champions League semi-final and the start of the 2024 AFC Under-23 Asian Cup in Qatar, a competition that will decide, of course, the continent's qualifiers for this summer's Olympic Games in Paris. And as always, we'll discuss the latest from the Saudi Pro League. So much to get going with. Joining me as always, Arab News Sports editor Ali Khaled. Ali, only one place to start this week. Al-Hilal's long winning streak of 34 matches has come to an end in spectacular fashion. And before you hit it, I did say it would be when you're least expecting it, right?
Yep. Hi, Peter. Yeah, good to be back. And yes, I mean, no one saw this coming. It was a big game. It was against Al-Ain, obviously, in the AFC Champions League semi-final first leg. But, I mean, you know, we might have expected possibly a draw from Al-Ain. You know, we did say, you know, like, don't underestimate Al-Ain, who, of course, beaten Ittihad in the last round. It was
spectacular.
Absolutely spectacular game. You know, they went into a 3-0 lead in the first half. Sufyan Rahimi scored a hat-trick, 2 of them penalties. There was another penalty later on for Al-Ain as well. I mean, in moments, Al-Hilal, you know, sort of came back and put a lot of pressure on Al-Ain. Obviously, where they made it 3-1, could have made it like had it gone 3-2. Who knows what would have happened, because I was still relatively early in the second half. But you know, Al-Ain got that second penalty and made it 4-1. I think in the end, like a very deserved victory for Al-Ain. They deserve so much credit. You know, the job Crespo's done is fantastic. Leaves, just leaves the second leg, I would say, finally poised. You know, we really thought it would be closer. We were talking about, you know, Al-Ain possibly, you know, keeping it competitive into the second, but they've done far more than that. They were absolutely brilliant. Of course, we can never write off Al-Hilal at the end of the day, as spectacular as the match was. It's still two goals. You know, Al-Hilal are more than capable of turning this round. Look, I don't want to say too much about this game because we're going to discuss it with our guest in a bit. You know,
looking forward to that.
It was a sensational match. You know, we'll discuss it more later in the show.
But it's not over, as you quite rightly said, AK. It's not over. Of course, listen, we had some rainstorms last week during the match, and obviously we hope everyone is safe and recovered from anything that may have happened flood-wise. But that meant that the match initially scheduled for Tuesday had to be put back 24 hours. So that's had caused a bit of controversy in Jeddah. Because
obviously the match couldn't go on Al-Ain, which had storms as well on Tuesday. So, it was an obvious decision, really. But what happened was, you know, with that delay, it meant that Al-Hilal's next SPL match, which was scheduled for Friday, was against Al-Ahli. And because it was, I think, 48 hours or less than 48 hours, you know, that league match had to be postponed. And the SPL postponed it for 17 days later, for May the 6th, you know. Now, that made Al-Ahli quite unhappy. You know, they called the delay, they called the new date arbitrary. They said, you know, this goes against fair play and all that. In fact, you know, I mean, it was there was a bit of a domino effect of that, the postponement in Al-Ain, because it's not just the Al-Ahli match that was postponed, but a couple of other matches for Al-Hilal, because Al-Ahli game, Al-Hilal's Ahli game was postponed, and then 2 other league matches. So, I mean, Al-Ahli said, we don't accept this postponement, but it has been postponed and it will take place, as we know, as things stand on May the 6th. So, yeah, a bit of a, let's just say Al-Ahli were not happy with this at all. I mean, there's always talk of like helping out clubs when they're playing in continental competitions and all that. But I think the fact that it was such a massive postponement, 17 days, probably played a part in Al-Ahli's reaction. But we'll wait to see what happens there.
Okay, great update. There's a big win, by the way, for Saudi under-23s team last night in the Asian Cup as well. Things looking good for progress, Paris 24, AK.
Yeah. I mean, we discussed this last week, if you remember, Peter, with Amy. So yeah, I mean, we know this competition. It's an important competition on its own. It's taking place in Qatar, but it's a pathway to the Summer Olympics. Saudi thrashed Thailand 5-0 thanks to a hat trick from Abdullah Radif and a goal apiece from Ayman Yahya and Ahmed El Ghamdi. This followed their opening day win, or their opening group match win against Tajikistan. They won that 4-2. So Saudi now top the group with 6 points. They haven't qualified quite yet, although it's looking very good, as you said. But qualification not quite confirmed. Tajikistan and Iraq are both on 3 points. Would expect a draw against Iraq on Monday would be enough for Saudi to confirm their place in the quarterfinals. In fact, to win the group. So look, I mean, it's looking very good. It's gone as good as possible. They are free scoring. They did concede those 2 over Tajikistan, but like 9 goals in 2 matches now. It's looking good. Quick mention for Coach Saad Al-Shahri, who's done a really great job, with the under 23s. We sometimes lament the fact that there's not that many Saudi coaches involved in the league, or in with the national team with this group. But he's been there for a while. He's done a great job. Don't forget, he took the team to the last Olympics, where they performed really well. I mean, probably the results don't. If you look at the results in isolation now, they don't look that great. But it was a very tough group. They lost 2-1 to Ivory Coast, 3-2 to Germany, and 3-1 to Brazil. A very, very tough group. But they actually performed really well. I remember. So yeah, good job by Coach Saad Al-Shahri, and we expect Saudi to progress to the quarterfinals. Quick point, I know I mentioned this last week, but for our listeners, this competition, 16 teams, 4 groups of 4, obviously top 2 from each group go to the quarterfinals, and then it's obviously a knockout competition. The top 3 in the competition, the 2 finalists and the team that wins the 3rd place playoff, automatically go to Paris. And the losing the team that finishes 4th still has an opportunity against one of the African qualifiers. So yeah, that's
if you wanted a more detailed outlook of how this tournament works, you wouldn't get one anywhere else. Fantastic. Listen, of course, we've had several SPL matches as well in the last few days. But before we do that, looking at you both on camera with your both got the most amazing sort of what I say, cultivated beard. So my question before we get into the SPL is Cristiano's new beard, is it AI or is it real? That seems to be what's trending in the news. We'll ask our guest that a bit later on. But listen, we have had several SPL matches, Ali, in the last few days.
Yeah, you'd be excused for being distracted with some of the other matches that are taken on. With this SPL, at least the destination of the title already known. But the pick of the bunch were a big 5-0 win for Al Shabab against Abha in Riyadh, and Al Nassr beat 10-man Faiha 3-1 with a couple of goals there for Sadio Mane as well. Those were the 2 big. It doesn't really change the top of the table much, of course, as we know. Al-Hilal are running away with the title. Al Nassr safe in 2nd place, 11 points behind Al-Hilal. Al-Ahli are 3rd. And Al Ta'awan back up to 4th after they drew 1-1 with Al Khalij.
The entertainers.
So, we like Al Ta'awan. We've praised them and still hanging in there. So fantastic for them. Although, of course, I think they'll be disappointed they didn't win that match. But it does take them back to 4th. And reigning champions Ittihad point behind Al Ta'awan in 5th. So I mean, yeah.
We know about the title race, but still the league. It's been an absolutely tremendous season. Great time to bring in our special guest, the chiseled Ronaldo-looking Matt Monaghan, our Middle East football expert. Matt, how are you?
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, I think.
You say that every week.
Yeah, well, so is it real? I think the beard's great. I noticed there's a similar debate.
Is it real, Matt?
I don't know, but I've noticed a similar debate about Mark Zuckerberg, hasn't there? Is his facial hair real or fake recently, or at Zuck, as we should now call him? And yeah, good company to be in for Ronaldo.
Yeah, maybe Peter.
Great
Maybe
stuff.
it's just like I know you've been banging on about this for a few weeks. Ronaldo, the end of the season hasn't gone great well for him. Maybe he's just let himself go. He said, "That's it. I don't care." Yeah. I'm growing my beard.
Growing his beard, and it still looks brilliant. Matt, as always, it's great to have you along. So much for us to digest as there is every week. So, AK, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, Matt. I mean, obviously, Matt and I were actually texting during that fantastic game between Al-Ain and Al-Hilal. Matt, I mean, what a game. I mean, where do we start? I'll leave it to you.
It was breathless, wasn't it? I'd say, credit to the players as well, because obviously, let's not forget the game was rescheduled for 24 hours because of the severe weather in the UAE. So you're wondering what kind of condition, both mentally and physically, the players are in, but what a show they put on for us.
Incredible. I mean, that start from good crowd at Hazza Stadium, like behind Al-Ain, which we expect. But
and also credit to the crowd as well, because again, the conditions even in Al-Ain, the people like the local fans, it was terrible weather. So to fill out the Hazza is amazing.
Yeah, it was a great turnout, and passionate crowd, as we know with Al-Ain fans. But what that start by Al-Ain, like they absolutely blitzed Al-Hilal. Do you think? I mean, Al-Hilal should have been prepared, but probably they weren't prepared for that.
Yeah, I guess, and that's led by the athleticism of Rahimi. I think he just symbolises everything. He's got to be one of the quickest players I've ever seen, Rahimi, and the way he's able to sustain those sprints as well. He's just been. It's been a remarkable few months for him. It's like in the UAE Pro League, 7 in 16, which is good, but not incredible. But the AFC Champions League, 11 in 10. And also just so many clutch moments as well from the penalty spot. That early finish, just racing through the defence. I think he set the tone for Al-Ain, who were I think they were just monsters in midfield as well, the likes of Al-Balushi, Nader, Park, who I think has been one of the signings in the Middle East this summer, the South Korea defence midfielder we saw at the Asian Cup. Like the quality of Palacios as well on the ball, the former Golden Boy nominee, which I guess we'll get onto that in a minute. The youthful foreign recruitment, I think, by Al-Ain and also by UAE football, a progress that began several years ago. I think we saw the benefits of that today, and also a reason why from next summer Saudi Arabia are basically trying to copy the same approach. Yeah, I mean, it was. You mentioned Rahimi's pace there, but I felt like, Al-Hilal, whether Al-Hilal played a very high line and all that, but those first 3 goals, obviously Rahimi's first goal and the 2 penalties, the penalties came from players being, through one-on-one as well, Exactly,
and fouled. Yeah. So again, the pace just putting Al-Hilal's defense in massive trouble and, just sort of cutting through them really.
Yeah, I got to give credit there, as we mentioned Rahimi before. Eric who won the second penalty, I guess we can now call him the Brazilian Emirati. Eric began his career at Internacional, has been in the UAE for 3 or 4 years now, so he's got his Emirati citizenship, which of course changes the dynamics when it comes to eligibility for UAE AFC competitions, and that's I think a big part of this. If you look at the Al-Ain starting team. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got 6 foreign-born players in the Al-Ain lineup, which is obviously beyond the threshold. But because of the long-term UAE strategy, going back now to 2020, of bringing in 21 foreign players who, with a view to them being naturalised within 3 years and playing for the UAE senior team within 5 years, that now we're in the window where it's starting to bear fruit. You've got guys. You had the first one of those that group who made his debut for the UAE last month, and then Eric, he's going to be in there soon. Or Tone, who's an outstanding centre back, has actually rejected call-ups to the Ivory Coast in recent years because he wants to play for the UAE eventually, and we see a lot of the benefits there. I think there's clubs outside of Saudi Arabia, the financial power of Saudi Arabia. You've got to think up different methods to try and compete with Saudi Arabian clubs. And also Saudi Arabian national team as well. And the UAE have gone, how can we make our player pool bigger? How can we make ourselves more competitive? And they put a long-term faith and long-term investment in lots of outstanding young players. And now's the time that's bearing fruit. And I think in a region that's not known for its patience within football decision makers, I think we really have to give credit to that call.
That's great stuff, Matt. And I think, as you say, this is the window where it's starting to bear fruit. We'll start to see the results in the coming years. So that's great. But also, I wanted to, that's as a policy across the UAE. But, I wanted to talk about Al-Ain in particular, and of course, the job that Crespo's done. I mean, fantastic that they've got themselves into this position.
Also, I'd say for Crespo, he's shown that he can learn on the job. Obviously, a year or so ago, same stage of the competition, his Al-Hilal team got absolutely mullered by Al-Hilal. I think the general consensus is they came into that game, played far too wide open, and Al-Hilal just ripped them to shreds. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a record defeat by some distance at that stage of the competition. And Al-Ain played a cagey game. They had less possession, less shots. Were happy to hit on the counter. And like you mentioned right at the start, with the athleticism of the likes of Eric, Rahimi, Belushi, all very quick runners, powerful runners. It paid dividends against an Al-Hilal team. It just it seemed strange. It seemed like they just didn't know how to cope with that level of athleticism.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've spoken about Al-Ain, and look, again, massive credit to Crespo, to the players, fantastic results, and to the fans, and we look forward to seeing them in the return leg. But we got to talk about Al-Hilal. I think, like I said, got caught really in that first half. It's as if they were not expecting that. They really did look like, I would never say they underestimated anyone, but I think they've been so confident, 34 wins in a row. And, we've been saying it, when will that draw or loss come? And it came in spectacular fashion. I did see signs in the second half where, they actually got their act together. Obviously, because of the deficit, obviously that was still a big deficit. They made it 3-1 at some point, and then it went back to 4-1. But they did put Al-Ain under a lot of pressure in certain points, and you would have imagined, they did hit the post in the last minute, if I recall correctly, Matt. It could have made it 4-3, and then it would have been really close and all that. So not all over yet for them. You would expect them to, you would expect this result to give them a good wake-up call, I think.
I think it's time to talk about a player that was missing last week and will, I'm sure, 99.9% be missing the coming week as well, Mitrovic.
Yes.
I think his absence was keenly felt in that game. He would have, I'm sure, changed the complexion, because Malcolm's been in wonderful goal scoring form. I think that's 7 in his last 5 now. So we don't need to talk anymore about Salam Al-Dossari. We know exactly what he's about. But I think Al-Hamdan, and he's not that young anymore. The striker that George Jesus went with up top. I wonder if there's any regrets about not starting with Al-Shehri. I'm sure that will be corrected in Riyadh for the next game. I think it would have been a totally different game with Mitrovic, totally different tie. And I'm highly confident we will see Al-Shehri, obviously a goal scorer at World Cup 2022. Such a reliable presence. He doesn't get many opportunities, does he, for Al-Hilal, Al-Shehri, but he's never let the club down. And that could be the stage for him next midweek.
No, absolutely, man. I mean, really good point about Mitrovic. I said earlier in the season, really, you could make a case for him for being the signing of the season. There has been quite a lot of the signings have done a good job. Few haven't, but Mitrovic has been sensational. Sergei Milinkovic-Savic also for Hilal. He's had a great season as well. Malcolm, obviously, has had as you've already mentioned him, and elsewhere. Other players have been up and down, Mane, Firmino, and others. Kante's had a great season, Fabinho. But really, Mitrovic has been sensational, and for me, the signing of the season. So he was a big miss. I think we forget sometimes with Al-Hilal, because they've got so many stars, so many options, that you think, and they keep winning, that it doesn't really affect them when they have injuries. But in this case, it did. And of course, let's not forget, as we always mention, Neymar's hardly played at all. Imagine this team with Neymar and Mitrovic firing on all cylinders. So
I would quickly interject though, and I would quickly interject and say that Al-Ain can say the same. Obviously, Kodjo Fodo-Laba, pretty much always the top scorer in the Adnan Pro League, and he's really struggling to overcome injuries. Just not when he's played a bit since he picked up a muscle injury, and he's not looked the same player. He's a guy who his record over a long period in the UE top flight is at least a goal every game.
No, absolutely.
And he obviously he didn't start. He wasn't. I don't think he even made the squad. He wasn't considered fit enough. So that can go both ways.
Absolutely, and anyone who reads Matt's brilliant UAE Football League summaries for us every week for the last 2 years will know how much Matt is a fan of his, and just how much we've written about him and his goal scoring form. So absolutely, it's.
And the big thing about Labo as well is he's a clutch player. So he doesn't just score against the lesser lights. He nets in the big games as well. He's a massive big game player, the Togo international. So that's the thing as well.
Yeah, Laba. I mean, like Matt mentioned, he's talking about like how his record is a goal a game, and with Matt's wrap of the UAE Pro League every week, he does like a player of the week, goal of the week, and talking points and all that. And at some point it seemed like Lava was there. It was in there every week, either goal of the week or a player of the week. So yeah, really good point to highlight there, Matt. Quick point on quick mention of the Saudi under-23 team. Again, I mentioned earlier in the show, Saad Al-Shahri, the coach, done a great job and all that. Do you see Saudi Arabia qualifying for the Olympics?
Yeah, I think they've got a major chance, and it's actually, I'd say this is twofold. There's two reasons. A, you've got several players in that squad who were at the World Cup and or at the Asian Cup, the senior competitions recently, so there's plenty of talent there. Yeah. And B, the fact this tournament, I think this is probably the last COVID-affected tournament, and because of that, you've had to get pushed into outside a FIFA window. So several nations of the big nations in this competition have just not been able to select anywhere near like their strongest teams, the likes of South Korea, Australia, even like Iraq, teams like that. Yeah. So I think Saudi Arabia, as obviously let's not forget they're holders of this competition, would have had a very strong case to make the semi-finals anyway. Because it's all about making the semi-finals. If you make the semi-finals, you've got a very good chance of making the Olympics. They would have had a good shout at that anyway, but I think more like looking towards winning the competition. That the Roshan Side League teams have pretty much you can select who you want, and they've likes of Radif. Obviously, he's scoring a hat trick the other day. We saw him score at the Asian Cup against South Korea in the senior competition. Yahya is selected for the World Cup. He's netted in this competition. So I think they're in a very strong position, and with Al-Shahri as well, he's got just so much experience at this level.
Yeah. I mean, we'll like I said, a draw against Iraq should see them through, and then, as you mentioned, it's the quarterfinals, semifinals. If you get to the semifinals, you've got a 75% chance of automatic promotion. You're almost there, and then even if you finish fourth, you still have that playoff. So really, and looking at the
knockouts as well, I think obviously nothing's a gimme, but you're looking at, I think, if they win Group C, which is looking highly likely, they face the second team in Group D, and that looks like Vietnam, Uzbekistan, Kuwait, Malaysia are the teams in that group. So I think you would back this Saudi Arabia to overcome those teams.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Thanks, Matt.
Awesome stuff, Matt. As you know, we're never going to let you go quietly out that side door here at Dawri. Going to put you on the spot. This is the big one. Can Al-Hilal turn the tie around? Will they? And what's your score prediction?
I think Al-Ain will do enough to hold on, because I think it's not just. I think we'll go back to the previous round against Al Nassr. Al-Ain were. It hadn't been for their usually reliable goalkeeper Khaled. It's pretty much always the UAE number one in the last few years, having an aberration of a performance. They would have quite comfortably beaten an Al Nassr that had obviously Cristiano Ronaldo starting for them. I think Al-Ain are just. I think they'll do it. I think they've got this 2-goal cushion. It looks, I'm pretty sure it's pretty much 100% that Mitrovic is not going to play in the next game. So I think they will have enough to see it through. And then Rahimi, the absolute outstanding player of this AFC Champions League edition. I don't think there's any debate about that. And also as well, this Al-Ain team is set up they're just perfectly set up for this game, because obviously Al-Hilal are going to need to attack, which is going to lead spaces. And you've got the pace of Rahimi, maybe Lab will be there, maybe not. If not, you've got the Kaku, who will be threading through the passes again. Somebody who has got the most assists in Roshan Saudi League last season when he was at Al Tawan. He's playing for Al-Ain now, so I think they'll do it. And I think just the way this competition has gone for Al-Ain, sometimes you just feel that a club has got their name written on a trophy, and that's how it feels for Al-Ain. Obviously, Al-Ain, the only UAE team to win the AFC Champions League more than 20 years ago now, and it feels like this could be the time again.
Interesting. AK, the same question's going to you, but I'm going to ask, will a home advantage, just playing devil's advocate to Matt, do you think it can, I mean, obviously it can be done. It's a team that's won so many games in a row. What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think home advantage will definitely play a part. It did for Al-Ain, and we know Al-Hilal fans will be out in force for this one. Sure, it'll be an incredible atmosphere. Look, I mean, it's such a tough one to call. I mean, and it's hard to go against anything that Matt said. They're really, I mean, and I know Matt, you've watched Al-Ain quite a lot, probably a lot more than I have. So he knows the strengths of this team, and you mentioned the Mitrovic thing. I keep going back to Al-Hilal's last chance in the match when we could have made it 4-3, late on, and then it would have been slightly different. But then you think, would it, an early goal would set up a similar scenario as well. Like get an early goal like in the first few minutes, and then you are back to 4-3. So it's really, really tough, but they do have to win by 3 to go through. Obviously, like it could go to penalties. I feel like Al-Hilal will win, but seeing how Al-Ain played in Saudi last time out against Al Nassr, I just think that that 2-goal deficit will work to the benefit. I think I'll say I think Al-Hilal will win, but it'll only be by 1-goal margin.
Yeah, I think just looking at this competition as a whole, UAE clubs have done really well in Saudi Arabia. Obviously, you go all the way back to the playoff round. Shabab Al-Ali within a few seconds of dumping Al Nassr out in the playoff round. Al-Ain beating Al Fayha. Al-Ain, obviously, that epic match against Al Nassr in Riyadh in the last round. And I think this is where, again, I'll go back to, I think, the player eligibility rules and the way the UAE have really intelligently interpreted those rules over a medium to long-term strategy. I think it does make a difference. I think Al-Ain will have just about to get through here. It's going to be a nervy roller coaster match for them, but I think they'll have just enough to get through.
Super stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt, as always.
Matt, absolutely brilliant to have you with us, as always. That's it for another episode of Dawri. This is Pete Redding. I'm off to grow a Ronaldo-like beard because the gents already have one. We will see you next week on our next episode of Dawri.